Hello and welcome to another episode of the Dork List. My name is Jordan Fay.
My name is Darian Christian.
And we're finally back. Now in 2016.
Guess who's back again. They need something crazy when we start the show. They always need something crazy.
It's true. You guys need something crazy out there.
Jordan. Guess who's back again.
Shady's back.
Guess who's back. Tell a friend. Guess who's back.
Guess who's back. Guess who's back. Guess who's back.
It's us.
Yeah, it's us.
The Dork List.
The Dork List is back.
We back.
Okay, I think that's enough of a kooky opening for
Is
that.
that crazy enough for y'all?
Yeah, probably.
Good?
Okay,
Good.
so yeah.
Awesome.
Anyway, so this time around, we're kind of changing up the format a bit for our podcast.
A little bit.
We kind of realized that, we've been having really long podcasts lately. It's not even a question. Like, you look at, like, the trend, and things were just getting longer and more past an hour with each go.
I mean, who doesn't like hearing our majestic voices, especially Jordan's?
Majestic.
Majestic
Absolutely
as freak!
majestic. But, yeah. And in all honesty, like, we know that you guys, tune in, like, for certain things here and there. So, essentially, like, this time around, because we only have, like, two big general topics, which we're gonna go quite in depth over, considering they're two lists based on things in 2015, there'll be a lot to talk about. So you'll have a lot to listen in on with each essentially part of the episode. I was going to say halves, but I don't feel necessarily that one half is going to be, or that they're going to be equal.
Long story short, spoiler alert, there will be a to be continued at the end of this podcast.
Right. So we'll cover one of our general lists in the first part here, and then we'll have a general list in the second one as well. Which might as well say right off the bat, this segment, well, you'll be able to tell when you click on it by the title, but there's going to be a movie portion, and there's going to be an anime portion. And we thought that we'd start things off with the movie one, and in the second part we'll do our anime, because that way too, we get to talk to you guys about, anime stuff and conventions in the second one.
Yeah.
But like with this first one, we kind of get to, do our general
Especially
intro.
since we've had a lot of movie news in, like, the last week.
Yeah, that too.
With Star Wars kicking the crap out of everything that has ever existed in movies recently. It has beaten successfully now, news to you, Avatar.
Domestically. It has not yet beaten Avatar worldwide, but it is only a matter of time.
It literally is only a matter of time, but it's Star Wars The Force Awakens. What do you expect? I still plan on seeing it again.
I still want to see it in 3D, just because I heard that there were certain parts of the movie that you could enjoy more. Like, there are things that make more sense and, like, are enjoyable in 3D. And I'm willing to give it a shot.
Yeah, essentially, I just want to see it again, purely because I want my pretzels again. And it's my favorite thing about going to the movies. Shut up.
I enjoy my movie theater popcorn, so don't fault you there. And I do love the Oreo churros.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. Those are delicious.
It's the idea of an Oreo churro that just makes it so fascinating.
It's true. But yeah. But that being said, again, we're back after, the holidays have finally died down for the most part.
Yeah.
Everybody's had their Christmas and New Year's parties.
Speaking of which, Happy New Year!
Happy New Year, 2016.
2015? Oh, shit. I just said 2015.
And you swore.
Dang! I've sworn like 3 times.
Yeah. But on this episode... Okay.
I'm so sorry, I have such a potty mouth!
Darian's swear count for the Dork List has ascended to 3. Probably. Who's counting? There's one fan out there that has been counting our swears this entire time. Another one for the list!
Just don't be one of those obsessive nerd fans who loves us. But obviously, you're probably gonna love Jordan, so I have nothing to worry
I mean,
about.
at what point are we gonna have obsessed? I mean, well, maybe when we finally get big.
If we
Maybe when we like finally start like a gaming portion to my channel.
Oh, speaking which, in about a month, I will be streaming Digimon Cyber Story Cyber Sleuth. So we will be doing that. That will be a thing. Stay tuned for details.
Oh, do you want me in on that?
Do you want to be on that?
Yes, I want to be in. I want to be like your color commentator.
Yeah, that would be great. So
And I just had a very bad thought in my head as a result of that.
Don't worry. It's gonna be great. Between the two of us, we got lots of Digimon knowledge. We'll be able to shout around in that. And I guess it's official. Jordan is pretty much gonna be on par in doing this with me. So pretty much, he kind of has to, since he promotes me on the interweb. Pretty much.
It's true, and at some point too, I want to get an Elgato recording device so I can start streaming Wii U and other game stuff. Like I'd like to also because I plan on using my GameCube possibly as well at some point.
Yeah.
Because I actually have the adapter too for Game Boy Advance,
Tell me more
and that
info
would work.
about that, because I would love to start streaming Gotcha Force, because it's the most greatest game that nobody's ever played.
But Custom Robo for GameCube.
But Custom Robo will be your thing, and I do Gotcha Force.
I guess that's true, but like, because Custom Robo is the one I really want to stream, just because I just love that game for the GameCube.
Okay, we're gonna
so
start.
much.
We're gonna change this part of the segment to future prospects. Just a little mini one.
Okay, so yeah.
So why don't you tell us about Custom Robo, since this is a future prospects thing?
I guess it was just one of those kind of like hidden gems on the GameCube that
There are
not
a lot
all
of hidden gems on the
there
GameCube.
are, just because the GameCube was just very.
It was underrated.
To be fair, Nintendo is known for gimmicky consoles and whatnot. Which, I mean, let's be honest, the Purple Lunchbox was still very gimmicky. And the games too were known for being just kind of kooky and not necessarily the quote-unquote hardcore that people like, but then again, there were, several
Well, you had that
Nintendo Direct
migration,
ones.
because in the early 90s to 2000s, we had the consoles. Not the console wars, because the console wars really weren't essentially a thing, because Nintendo was dominating, and then the PS2 came out, and Nintendo slowly got its butt kicked.
Yeah.
But, and as much as I love the PS2, there's a reason why I've gone through three PS3s or 2s, and I've only gone through 2 GameCubes, and the second GameCube is sitting right in front of me, still working.
I was gonna say, I actually went through the whole 2 GameCube thing too.
Yeah.
Although, I actually think we might have gotten 3 at one point.
But then one of you kept one, and then...
Right.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, like, the purple one is the one that failed on us, and then we got, like, the black one.
Yeah.
Although I believe we also got a silver one at
well,
one point,
mine, the
too.
eye died and burnt out in the original purple one that I got, and then we got another one, and then which is the one I still have to this day. And if anything, I want to learn how to, like, at least, like, improve it a little bit, to, like, replace the parts so it can still run perfectly.
Well, I just desperately want to find, the Game Boy Advance adapter for it as well. Because, I mean, that would be great, so to, plug in Game Boy Advance games, and even, I think, Game Boy Color ones, work on there, too.
Another game I would love to stream on GameCube with, like, a group of people is to stream Four Swords Adventures. And
That's true.
Because that's just a fun game. That's another underrated game for it. And people's like, it's not a real Zelda game because it's a level-based game. I'm like, that doesn't mean anything.
So what?
Four Swords Adventures is the first Zelda game I ever beat. And if it hadn't been for that game, I wouldn't have beat a Zelda game after that.
Alright, so I think it's pretty much a sure thing at this point that just Darian and I are going to start doing
some streaming. We'll probably
streaming stuff.
We'll probably include a few people on said streams.
Yeah, kind of build up, a report of people that we can call in at certain points.
Well, we'll make a list and get back to you of games we'll want to do. Mostly we'll do GameCube games.
Yeah.
Because we love the GameCube, and that way we only have to use one console and do one for one thing, so...
Oh, and then I'll have my Wii U. I'm definitely gonna stream Super Mario Maker at one point just because it's too much fun.
I'm hoping to get a Wii U, and then I might stream Xenoblade X. Hopefully, that's not a given.
And then Smash Brothers is also a given.
I don't know how good I'd be at that, considering I've been slacking.
I mean, that's fair, but like, yeah.
I've been slacking with my Smash Bros. People. I'm sorry.
And I really hope at some point they create another like Pokemon kind of Coliseum or whatnot, just so we could do like free for alls or something.
Well, that's what everybody wants in like a Pokemon game on a console.
Right.
Is that they want a free roam, not Coliseum where you have to jump on a bike to get to places.
Okay, but I like Coliseum. It's like
everybody likes Coliseum. It's sitting right behind you.
Oh yeah. I mean, just to be fair, that one like is also another one of my favorite GameCube games.
But the thing about Coliseum that kind of ticked off a couple people, I mean, one thing that ticked off me about Coliseum is that you, point period, had one chance to get one of the starter Pokemon from Johto, and that was like at the beginning of the game, and if you killed it, you never got that chance again. And I know that people are like, oh, well, that's the go with Pokemon games. You couldn't save everywhere in this game. You couldn't, and that's the part that made it suck. So if you literally did it by mistake, you'd have to go back several times to try and do it again. But
well, I mean, to be fair though, too, several of the other Pokemon you only had one chance to get as well.
Yeah. Well, technically every Pokemon you only had one chance to get.
But like some were easier to save for than others.
Yeah. Essentially, I guess I could say, if we get a Pokemon game like that, I would love to have a free range, complete world Pokemon game that's completely original. Would I still like to have gym leaders and have the normal championship stuff like that? Yes, but I would love for it to like be a side thing, because I would like to have like a plot like Coliseum where there's like an evil bad thing that you have to do. But essentially, yeah, that's what I would like.
Fair enough.
But yeah, future prospects, a definite we will be streaming Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth next month in February after it releases. Alan will join us for that, considering since he's getting that for his Vita. And he'll probably just be in the corner playing it himself.
Probably.
And it'll probably help while he's sitting there playing on it there and say, no, go do this, because I did this. And then, yeah, we'll probably stream that.
Yep. So, anyway, that's probably enough on that.
Yep.
So I guess it's time then to go talk about movies.
Movie time!
Alright, so, like I said toward the beginning of this episode part here, Darian and I are going to go over, at least for movies anyway, our top 5 list of movies for 2015. And the criteria for this was that the movie had to come out in theaters in 2015.
I hate you for this because I watched so much anime that didn't come out in 2015 this year.
Right, but we're not doing anime yet. This is the movies.
I'm saying in general.
Right. Well, our rule of thumb for this was that it had to be, because for both the movies and the anime, it had to have been theatrically released if it was a movie in 2015, and if it was an anime, it had to have first been created pretty much. So like a subbed version in 2015.
Yeah.
And we're not talking necessarily, we didn't really include second seasons of things just because they didn't necessarily premiere.
I said he could, he didn't want to do it.
I kind of did for my number 10, but that was because I kind of just needed a 10th one. But anyway, we're going to kick things off with our top 5 movies of 2015. I said I'd go first on this one, and then Darian will go first for anime. So my number 5 movie of 2015 was Marvel's Ant-Man. And I will say with Ant-Man, is it one of the best Marvel movies out there? By no means. But I legitimately enjoyed Ant-Man more than I thought I would. Because I'll admit that with Paul Rudd as our leading man, I didn't know necessarily how well he was going to pull off the title role. Because, as we all know, Paul Rudd is known more so for doing comedy roles than necessarily serious ones. That being said, with the whole Marvel movieverse right now, they have a huge focus on comedy. And so having him like in a comedic role worked out nicely in the end for this movie. And not to mention the supporting cast was actually genuinely funny. And actually did stuff, which is something that you don't always have a supporting cast that ends up having a significant effect on the plot per se. But yeah. That's all I'm gonna say for my number 5. I'm gonna kick it over to
I'd
Darian.
say he's seen my top 5, and I don't want him to use out Ant-Man considering since it's on my list. But moving on, the top 5 for me is a movie called Southpaw. It had Jake Gyllenhaal in it, and I decided to see this movie after seeing another movie that I cannot remember for the life of me, and I just remember I had $10. I had 10 spare bucks lying around, and I decided to go and watch 2 movies. I'm like, well, I just watched one. Let's watch another one. So I decided to go see Southpaw. It's a boxing movie, and I've seen every Rocky movie and every single...
Not to mention an Eminem one that he had some kind of influence in that, didn't he?
I don't remember.
I think I expressly remember Eminem having some kind of impact on this movie.
Why don't you interweb check that while I talk about Southpaw? Southpaw is a movie whereas Jake Gyllenhaal is a father and to his daughter, and he has a wife who dies in the first 30 minutes of the film after he was going to retire from boxing completely, and during a press conference his wife dies, and his life falls apart completely to where he has to literally come from the ground up. He loses his daughter and has to build his life from the ground up. He loses all of his money, loses everything. And it's a touching story and a fun story and it's really well told. Jake Gyllenhaal did a really great job in this. It's I think Rachel McAdams was in this.
I couldn't tell you. I never saw the movie.
Rachel McAdams did a great job as his wife in the first literally 30 minutes, and especially his daughter, whose actress's name I do not know. Great job as the daughter, because you really got their character roles down. And I'm completely butchering the review of this movie.
A little bit.
But overall, it's a great sports movie if you like sports movies that involve boxing, like I do. And my top boxing movies and sports films ever, it's probably in my top 5.
I read them.
I really liked it. People are going to be like, why don't you talk about Creed? I have honestly not seen Creed yet. It's on my list of things to do.
So very well, if he had seen Creed...
it probably would be on this list.
Yeah.
Because I love Apollo Creed.
Alright,
moving on to Jordan's number 4.
My number 4 is Disney Pixar's Inside Out.
In other words, Feels on Wheels.
Feels on Wheels. I mean, what can I say? This was one of the best animated movies of 2015. But that being said, it didn't necessarily have a whole lot of competition for 2015.
No, it didn't.
By no means was 2015 the year of animation.
We only had Minions.
We had Minions.
We had Inside
Out. We had Good Dinosaur. Peanuts. Rio 2. And that's all I can think of on.
I think we had a Ghibli film this year.
I
think we had another Ghibli film this year. I just can't remember what it was.
Right, but I don't necessarily count those. I mean, I could, but
are you going like CGI animated or just?
I'm just animated in general, but I don't count necessarily anime movies. Sometimes I do. Like one of my favorite movies of all time is actually Summer Wars, which isn't an animated movie. That's not a Ghibli movie. But I digress. We're talking about Inside Out. So Inside Out was the Pixar movie that did not flop this year. It actually did very well.
What do you mean flop this year? Like the direct one before that was Big Hero 6.
Big Hero 6 isn't a Pixar film.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought it was.
No, it's a Disney movie like Frozen is and Wreck-It Ralph. Those are Disney animated movies. Disney Pixar is a separate entity.
Thank you.
But like no, because the other one was Good Dinosaur. Good Dinosaur was actually a Pixar movie. That one just did not fare well, and that was partly because I feel like it was not advertised well enough. But that's because like the commercials in that for it were very ambiguous.
They didn't hammer in what the film was about, and weren't uber gimmicky with how they would like do.
I can't believe you just used Uber.
Screw you, just go.
But anyway, I loved Inside Out because it played upon our emotions. In a very
I see what you did there.
Did it really take that long for you to
I was making a joke. Way to ruin it.
But anyway, we just keep getting away from the point. It had a great voice acting cast. It had a very creative take on something that we take for granted on a regular basis. And I mean, who did not shed a tear for Bing Bong? If you did not if you did not shed a tear for Bing Bong, then you
can go die in a hole.
That was really loud.
I'm sorry.
No, like
I'm sorry.
I'm just looking at like. Okay, so for people that don't know, the microphone is literally in front of Darian's face for this recording.
Because, like I said before the podcast starts, the microphone likes Jordan, then it likes me.
It's very true. But then again, I've been trained on how to talk with the microphone.
Not to mention, you feed it, you treat it, right?
That's true.
I'm so proud of him.
Anyway, that's my number 4. I think anyone that loves animated movies can agree with that one. Passing it over to Darian.
My number 4, The Martian. The Martian is something that Jordan and I both saw. And I remember this because it was late at night, literally after I got out of work. And I was thinking the entire time, I do not want to fall asleep inside this movie. I do not want to fall asleep inside this movie. I do not want to fall asleep inside this movie.
And he didn't.
Thank God, because the movie was so funny I couldn't fall asleep.
It was funny.
For a movie that was particularly a solo one-man movie, it was really well done. Not only in, like, CGI mechanics or, like, visually speaking, but on, like, a mental platform as well. Because you really had to you really got into his brain. You really got into his mindset. Versus these kind of movies that really don't make you think about that. They just make you see it from the outside perspective. Whereas this movie really makes you think, holy crap, he's going to die. He's going to die. And a movie as dramatic as this, I would be really surprised, and I honestly did not read the book. I wouldn't have been surprised if he had died by the end of this film. Would not have been surprised, or if somebody had died trying to save him.
It's definitely an awards contender as well.
It's award contender. I really would have thrown this movie up for like any top awards thing, whatever. But they don't listen to me. My opinion isn't important. But on my list, where it does matter, Martian is number 4.
For number 3, I have Kingsman: The Secret Service.
It came out this year?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
I am like 100% positive.
You gotta be kidding me.
I'm not kidding you.
Talk about the movie.
I'm very certain it was this year because I remember seeing it this year with my father. Anyway, Kingsman to me was
no.
What?
No.
Oh no.
Jordan.
Oh no.
Oh, technicality.
Oh.
It released. You're good.
Why?
This would have been on my list because it released in the United States February 13, 2015.
That would be okay.
You are lucky.
So I am getting away with the technical. When was I'm guessing the British release date?
Technically, the British release date was also in January, but it also released 13th in December 2014.
I'm guessing it was like a limited release.
The Button-umathon. I have no clue what that is.
Okay, so Kingsman is. We're going on a technicality, was 2015, even though it had like a limited release, I guess, in 2014 at the very tail end. Anyway.
This would have been on my list. I thought it wasn't.
Okay, so ignoring the technicality aspects of it, Kingsman was a breakaway hit for me.
Good God, this movie was great.
It was going okay. So going into it, Kingsman had undergone several kind of changes to it. Like, it was originally intended for a 2014 release, like earlier in 2014, but they changed plot elements and stuff around, and that's why it ended up having like that 2015 release. And the extra work that they put into it paid off, hands down.
Although, I won't lie, throughout this entire movie, I wanted to slap Samuel L. Jackson for the way he looked. I just really wanted to slap him. He looks like an idiot.
He does, but, you know, again, you know, this entire time, like, it plays into the his whole mindset of, you know, this isn't a spy movie. It's like, I'm not your typical spy villain. Humanity is the virus.
Who this douchebag? I'm sorry. I hated him.
But he was a good villain, though.
I hated this guy.
But that makes for a good villain.
No crud, but he's literally one of the people that literally, if he actually existed, I would literally quit my life, hunt his ass down, and shoot him in the head.
Profanities! I mean, language.
This is really gonna become a thing.
It's pretty cookie. But anyway, it had a breakaway star in the title character, Eggsy. Like, he's gonna be a good actor going forth, I think. He played the role really well of the main character. The action sequences were amazingly done.
Well done. It's not even hit.
The humor was entirely on point, and it was just an enjoyable movie all around.
It's such an enjoyable
and like
movie.
the plot, yes, it had some parts obviously that, you know, were predictable, but
numerous James Bond
spy movies are kind of meant to be, you know,
yeah,
predictable. That there were still parts of it that were very unpredictable.
Yeah.
But still, I definitely put Kingsman at number 3 on my list for 2015. Where would you have put Kingsman on your top 5?
Southpaw would have been on the list.
So, well, I mean, obviously.
Well, where would I put it on the list?
Yeah, where would you put it on yours?
It would have been number 5.
Okay, that's fair.
It would have replaced Southpaw.
Okay. So what's your number 3, Darian?
Shocker! Avengers Age of Ultron.
Le gasp.
And this actually is a gasp for most of you who know me. And
is
for
it?
those of you who've got to know
is
me.
It?
Yeah.
It's not a gasp to me.
It's not a gasp for you, that's number 3, and another movie beat it? Or 2 other movies beat it?
Not a shocker to me. I knew you loved Avengers 2, but I knew that there were other movies that you were going to enjoy a little more. Like, marginally enjoy a little more.
Yeah, but Age of Ultron is number 3 on my list, purely because it's the Avengers, and of course it was gonna be one of my favorite movies this year. But reason being, Age of Ultron literally took off where Avengers left off. Maybe not in like terms of like high grossing film where it takes off, but in story wise, it takes off right where Avengers takes off. In a sense, where it's literally jumping right into the,
yes
to the
and
next
no.
round.
Like, yes, it's taking place after Avengers.
I don't mean like that.
Okay.
I mean in like tone.
Okay, yes.
In the tone, it really takes off where the original Avengers took off and did really well. Where there's a reason why that we didn't have like mass super team movies before this. And now that it exists, and now that at this time, in our time, Avengers has its place because it does it really well. The humor is great. Especially since in this movie, you got to see a more meshy team.
Well, and part of that, too, is due in part to the fact that we already know the team. They've already been formed thanks to the first Avengers. So
not even just the first Avengers.
Right, but I'm saying, though, because the team has already been established, they're able to get right into the meat and potatoes of the movie.
Yeah.
Because the team is already a thing.
Yeah.
And they're able to show more dynamics of the team and each individual character because they've already been established.
Especially Hawkeye.
Correct.
Whom I actually want to touch on in this movie. Hawkeye's character really finally gets his positioning perfectly in this movie, whereas in the movies before this, he just got smaller parts and didn't get a chance to shine.
Or, in the case of the first Avengers, he's turned into a bad guy. He does more stuff as a bad guy than he actually does as a good guy toward the end of the movie.
But towards the end of the movie,
Obviously,
everything he does just steals the show.
Yeah, it's like,
everyone's like, the Hulk steals the show. I'm like, no. Hawkeye stole the show because he was a bad guy before this, and now he's dropping people where they stand.
Although, to be fair, though, as well, it's just like, oh, I'm Hawkeye. I have 11 arrows.
Yeah.
12 if I really cram them in there.
Yeah. But also,
as was made funny by SNL.
Also, you got the seeds for Civil War started, the plants there, and you got the introduction of new characters like the Vision, Quicksilver, and Scarlet Witch. Scarlet Witch's character, I'm really hoping to see more of when Civil War comes out, because we got to see like aspects of her character. Also, I'm gonna say it flat out right now, I hope that whole Vision Scarlet Witch thing does not happen.
But I hope that the Ant-Man Hawkeye buddy cop essentially happens.
No.
I want it to happen. I want it.
It probably will, but
I mean, he rides one of Hawkeye's frickin' arrows, so
yeah.
I mean,
that was like hinted at for Civil War, but that's Civil War. But Age of Ultron, also you have James Spader as Ultron, who I will flat out say underwhelmed me. That was the thing that really kind of bothered me about Ultron, is that Ultron underwhelmed me.
I'm actually going to disagree with you.
No. I'm not saying that his performance wasn't great, and for this Ultron, he was perfect. But as Ultron, as the character in general that I've come to know him as, it was underwhelming.
Right, but at the same time, you gotta understand, though, that this is the movie verse and not the comic verse.
Yeah.
So, but in that aspect, I actually thought he was a better villain than Loki. And I might get a lot of hate for that.
You're gonna get hate for that regardless, because you used better than Loki in a sentence. But honestly,
in terms of the two Avengers movies, I will say that Ultron was a better villain, and that's just my.
Well, I don't think either has really stolen the show for me, because from that old Avengers movie, Loki was a pawn.
Well, exactly.
Loki was a pawn. I couldn't take him seriously.
Whereas Ultron was the
main.
He wasn't a bad guy that was necessarily a bad guy with overwhelming power, though. To be honest, he did
That's
have
what he's
that.
Supposed to be, though.
Right, but he was a villain that used his charisma more so than Loki did.
I would have never thought a robot could have charisma like that.
And the thing is, because he actually had to use like his charisma in that, whereas
to win people,
Loki had to just point his staff at somebody and brainwash them.
Even with Loki's charisma, he probably could have done the same thing, even if better. But he chose not to. Okay. But that's besides the point. But Age of Ultron, number 3 for me, because it has its place on my list, because it's literally one of the greatest films of this year. But it doesn't steal the show enough to where I have to say it's number 1.
Okay.
Moving on.
My number 2, Star Wars: The Force Awakens. Yes, I have something on my list that is the number 1, and I'm gonna say it right here. That is neither Star Wars nor Avengers. Avengers did not make it onto my list of top 5, which might be surprising to some, but anyway, Star Wars: The Force Awakens, I'm just going to say was a great addition to the franchise, and in all honesty, it did make up for the new trilogy. As much as George Lucas might Not like the fact that they did not take his ideas.
At a certain point, though, we had to get that franchise away from him.
Exactly. Because, yes, he's responsible for creating it, but he was also responsible in part for its almost destruction, in that, yes, he was trying to create new things with each movie, but the new trilogy
at a certain point, he was hindering himself.
It was. Whereas, the funny thing about that, though, is that Force Awakens, brought us back to, well, obviously, the future. Because it's a sequel to 6. So we have to see the characters age and whatnot. And it brought us back to a universe that actually felt alive. Because with the new trilogy, CGI was overused. Hands down. And there was a magic...
But that was most in part to where he wanted to try new things that he couldn't do.
Right, but the thing is, it did it to a point where it was entirely relying on CGI, whereas with The Force Awakens, there was so much of it that was actually, legitimately filmed, and not to mention they expertly used the Jim Henson Company to make the creatures alive, rather than just having to rely on CGI. Was there CGI involved still? Yes.
But not so much of it to where it was overwhelming like a Michael Bay film.
Right. And the thing is, along with that, we got to see, the characters that we knew and loved from the original trilogy. We got to see, essentially, what has happened to them over time, and what the galaxy, what's happened to it since then. But we also are introduced to a batch of new characters that is actually genuinely interesting and have room for growth in the next 2 movies.
Whereas we don't... With the original trilogy, the complete undertone of the original series is that this is going to end badly. That was the thought process. No matter what you did with the prequel trilogy. As good as you thought it could be, there was always the underlying thought, this is going to end badly and I'm not going to like watching it.
Whereas with this new trilogy, we're going into completely unknown territory.
It could go bad or it could go good.
And the thing is, we are somewhat, but not entirely, going off of the essentially now non-canon expanded Star Wars universe that, yes, they are adapting things from the expanded universe that existed before it.
They're not really doing it.
Okay.
We won't know that until
in terms of the new characters.
No, I can say flat out, they're not doing a whole lot.
Right.
They're using some ideas.
They're using ideas, but they're
not really.
Right. So
I read the expanded universe prior to this.
But anyway, I legitimately enjoyed Star Wars. Is there area for improvement?
There always is.
In that movie? There always is. It was not a perfect movie, but it was incredibly enjoyable.
Yes.
Whether I was on the edge of my seat, I was in a shock, or I was laughing my butt off, because there were tons of those moments. Yeah. I'm looking at you, Poe and Finn.
Who isn't looking at Poe and Finn right now?
Exactly.
More on that later.
Anyway, passing it on to Darian for his number 2.
My number 2 was Ant-Man. Ant-Man beat out Avengers.
Same.
For me, Ant-Man in this film, it's literally has now become one of my favorite Marvel movies. And it's a Marvel movie that, honestly, I could watch it again and again.
Agreed.
Whereas there are some Marvel movies I can't do that with.
Correct.
Like, honestly, there are some Marvel movies that I can't watch again and again. Or
Thor.
that I wouldn't want to.
Thor.
Thor is something I could watch...
once.
Not just once. It could watch a couple times. But at the same point, if you watch it too many times, you're going to hate yourself after it. Or like Avengers, where...
I still need to see Dark World, and I actually still need to see Captain America 2. But, like, I know for a fact that... Because I could only watch Thor once.
Yeah.
But I know for a fact that Dark World I'd only be able to watch once, too.
You're only going to be able to watch once. You're not missing much.
I know.
But more or less, when it comes to, like, Avengers, I never want to see that thing more than I want to. Because I don't want that magic to be ruined for me after a certain number of times. Maybe, like, in a couple of years I'll watch it over and over again. But for now, I do not want that movie over spoiled for me. I do not want to ruin how I feel when I watch that movie. But for Ant-Man, this movie was funny, and honestly, it goes into unfamiliar territories when it comes to superheroes, where our superhero is an ex-con. Our superhero is a dad. Well, now we know that because technically Hawkeye didn't really get that in the Avengers. We kind of saw into Hawkeye's life as a dad, but in Ant-Man, you really get to see it.
Yeah.
You really get to see how he
that
feels.
is a very important part of the plot.
And this is why Scott Lang is one of my favorite superheroes. Is that first and foremost, he's a dad, and he loves his daughter Cassandra Lang, and everything he does is for her. Everything he does is for her.
And the end of the movie is great too,
Yeah.
with the whole fact that, I mean, at the end of the day, does Scott get back together with his ex-wife? No. But they actually have a now positive relationship where he's, they're all part of like an extended family again.
Yeah. And honestly, I want to see that. I don't want to see the Marvel Universe one, which is even worse, where everything falls apart and everything goes to crap. But it'd be nice to see Scott move on with his life versus constantly trying to get back into his ex's life. And I'll say flat out, I don't like Peggy. I don't like Peggy as a person. She is a really kind of person where she just kind of flouts. She doesn't understand the ideals of protecting her daughter and getting in the way of her daughter. And that's a story for another day. But in terms of Ant-Man, I love the supporting cast to where, point period, I guarantee you Hank Pym's past is going to come up. And when that past comes up, people are going to hate him. People are going to hate him. Whereas in this movie, you got him in a brighter light than you could have wanted. Mm-hmm. And I really, really like seeing Hank Pym properly represented in the scientific community where he's got respect everywhere.
Yeah.
He's got respect everywhere.
Like, legitimate respect.
And honestly,
not necessarily...
after seeing this movie, all my doubts about Hank Pym being an old man in this film have died. To where it's like, okay, I was upset that it wasn't going to be Hank Pym as Ant-Man, but Hank Pym is in this movie.
They did it in a way that it was all right.
Did the character justice.
Right.
Versus, like... And if anything, this is how the real Hank Pym would want to be. He's a scientist, not a superhero.
Although he was.
But okay. More or less, now we've got so much room for growth as the part of the Ant-Man franchise. And I can't wait to see Ant-Man as a part of Civil War. Particularly since pretty much everybody's going to be giving Falcon crap for getting his butt kicked by Ant-Man.
Pretty much. It's going to be great.
But moving on to number one.
So my number one is actually The Martian.
Martian got number one?
Martian was the number one for me. To me, that movie just had everything that I wanted. It was the one movie that really... It caught me by surprise the most as the movie that I enjoyed beyond belief. In terms of essentially a solo movie, because at the end of the day, Matt Damon carries that movie because it is about him. And there are very few movies out there like
that can do that.
Exactly. And at the same time, it still had an incredible supporting cast that had a lot of significance on the plot. So much like significance with the plot.
You were sitting there on the edge of your seat that entire movie. And it's right. Like I said in my review earlier. You didn't know if he was going to live.
Exactly.
You did not know.
And I mean, at the end of the day, like you felt every triumph and failure that he went through. And I guess the one thing that really got me too was the actual scientific implications of everything that happened in the movie. Like, there were things in there that had actual scientific basis, whereas other movies sometimes just, throw science and logic out the window and say pew pew pew, laser beams and space travel and all this, whereas everything in this movie follows a timetable, follows actual scientific things that could happen. Are there things that they kind of maybe got away with? Sure.
What period? This is the first time he ever had an airlock break, he would be dead.
Exactly.
He would be dead. That's it. He's dead. That, not to mention, there's no way you can get a self-sustaining air or oxygen storage at our current rate of technology that could last for over a year and a half. It's not possible.
So there are things that are questionable and whatnot, but at the end of the day, the science that it did have, I was absolutely amazed by. I applaud it. I applaud Matt Damon.
Long story short, the entire movie is based around one line. I'm gonna have to science the out of this.
Yep. Pretty much. So yeah, that's my top 5. Now here's Darian's number 1.
Number 1, dun 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 dun, Star Wars.
Yep.
Star Wars. I mean, honestly, this year, I honestly thought Ant-Man was gonna be my favorite movie of this year because of how so epic Star Wars was, especially towards the end of this year, where it was just like you're just waiting for it at this point. The wait for this movie. The wait from this movie was probably the hardest thing I ever had to do in my life. Because you had to sit there, going in, not knowing what you were getting into. For when, honestly,
Which is something that we purposely did, too.
Yeah. Because, point period, I stayed away from spoilers, stayed away from extra film updates, stayed away from everything for weeks. Didn't do a dang thing. I didn't read our comic book related to Star Wars. I didn't read a book. I didn't read anything. I just sat around and waited for this.
I got spoiled 2 hours before the movie. I was so sad.
But more or less, when Star Wars came about, I'm just sitting here going, do the expanded universe justice. If you're taking over for this, you better do it justice. You better knock that universe out of the park because you're saying goodbye to a lot of good content for this. And it did not disappoint me whatsoever. Because you had action, you had a massive plot twist that I may or may not have agreed with, where literally they purposely told you things in the trailers only to say, oh, by the way, that's not true. We're doing something completely different. And for those of you who have not seen the movie, I will not spoil it for you. But point period, I would have preferred something else happen. And if you can kind of narrow in what I'm saying, I'm not saying I wish their character any ill will, but I wish that it had gone along lines with what they had said in the beginning.
I agree with you, but I also disagree with you.
But in a matter of sense, I'll say, long story short, I wish they had both been one. Both of them. Maybe...
Hooray for ambiguity.
Both of them. Whereas, and I'll flat out say it, without giving completely anything away.
No, don't say anything, because you say things that you think aren't spoilers, and then they're spoilers. Like you walked out of the movie. No, we're not. No. Just no.
Just no.
Just no.
Just no.
Just no.
Long story short, a character is OP.
Yes.
A character is OP, and comparison with other characters, I disagree with it because you'll have to see it. We'll eventually do a spoiler-related thing for this movie later, but we can't do it now.
Right, we're not going to do it tonight because we're already going along with both of these recordings.
Yeah.
So that takes care of our individual top 5s. Overall, this year, in terms of movies, it had, its few standouts, but there wasn't...
I was actually underwhelmed with a lot of movies this year.
Yes, I would agree with you.
Especially with all the box office hits that we were saying. People were talking about how great Jurassic World was. I went and saw that movie and I'm like, I liked it.
I liked that movie as well, and I believe that it genuinely did deserve the money that it got solely because, well, first off, one, it was, Jurassic World after several years, and it made up for, Jurassic World 3.
I like Jurassic World 3. Or Jurassic
You
Park
did.
I did.
But anyway, and not to mention, it was something that, anyone could watch.
Yeah.
Essentially. Whereas, that's kind of, interesting then with Star Wars and, direct comparison, where Star Wars is a sci-fi movie, that is just taking the world by storm.
And there's a reason why it's kicking the crap out of everything.
There is good reason, but just...
There is good reason. And if people hate this film, you're entitled to your opinion, but it deserves it.
Right.
It deserves it because literally it did what some films can't do nowadays.
Yeah.
It can't hide its plot, whereas it hid its plot for months. And J.J. Abrams did a great thing, and I hate him because he left the franchise and is not coming back for 8 or 9. Hopefully we can get him back on 9 if just in case 8 goes to crap. But
we'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens. But long story short, I just really, really enjoyed Force Awakens.
There were the few gems out there for this year, and then the rest of it was kind of. But I think it's because next year is when the game gets this year is when the game gets stepped up.
You got Deadpool. You got literally dueling films. You have Batman versus Civil War. Batman versus Superman.
Batman versus Superman. You
I'm
got
sorry.
Civil War. You've got Deadpool. You've got X-Men is this year, isn't it?
Apocalypse is this year.
You also have the new Harry Potter movie.
You have Independence Day.
There's
so much more.
There's Finding Dory is this year, isn't it?
I think it is. I think so.
Yeah.
But you also got those standalone hits that are still to come up in the coming months. All those standalone hits that aren't even around yet to come into this year. But most importantly, I think we should honestly name the podcast during Civil War last Batman vs. Superman weekend the Game Changer weekend. Because that will be the weekend that the game changes.
We'll see.
That one period.
Because let's be honest though, Batman vs. Superman determines the entire dynamic of what's going to happen for the Justice League and everything after that. If this movie bombs, which I'm hoping to God it does not bomb, it will determine everything. Coming up.
If this movie fails, I honestly believe that entire side of the franchise is dead. I will believe that entire side of that franchise is dead, and we will not see anything else beyond that. And make no mistake, Warner Brothers really, really wants the title and that franchise to move forward. They want to take on Marvel.
But the thing is, this is the movie that's going to determine it. They will either benefit or they will reap what they sow.
Yeah.
And
whereas Marvel is at a point
I think
where
a big part of that is Doomsday. He's going to be one of the big determining factors of whether that movie fails or not.
Yeah.
Same with Lex Luthor.
Long story short, I will say it flat out, they are using him too soon. And it may come back to bite them in the butt.
I agree.
It may come back to bite them in the butt. Also, in the way that he is used.
Yep.
That's going to determine whether or not this film succeeds or fails.
Right.
Also, Ben Affleck's Bruce Wayne.
Going from Daredevil to Batman.
We don't talk about that.
We don't. But, yeah, I think that wraps it up. That kind of, that's what we're looking forward to for movies this year.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for the second part of the Dork List for episode 9, so 9.2, where we're going to talk about our top anime from 2015. See you in a bit. See ya.